Oh, hello, hello. Morning, everyone. Um, Welcome to another In Black's Law uh podcast. A little gloomy this morning here. Hope it's nice where you are. No,
Yeah. So
but as always, make every day your best. Haha.
here we are, continuing another edition of our rundown of the Bill of Rights. We run, or AKA the first 10 constitutional, well, articles, because the
First
amendments
10
go.
articles.
There you go. So you want to hit this disclaimer, shall I?
You can go ahead and hit disclaimer before well, go ahead.
All
Go ahead.
right. So as always, the information herein presented is for educational, um, knowledge based background and entertainment purposes only. So, as always, if you're dealing with any legal issues, please seek counsel and be so advised in those matters. We will only be producing legal and law background with information and citations that you can always refer back to and check into for insight into the law and how it works. But you want to be able to present yourself in a courtroom based on information that you have found. And this is just, as always, cited background on the law. So, seek counsel if you're dealing with legal adversity. Otherwise, enjoy this cast for its educational value and entertainment value. All right, so here we go. We got some, as
Before you want
usual.
to get into that, before we get into
Okay,
that,
go ahead.
I want to say one thing. Technically, let's get this real. Okay, technically, the first 10 amendment, or the first 10 articles are the Bill of Rights, the Constitution for the United States of America. Um, but well, is it 10?
It's 10.
Okay. Um, the amendments, the first 10 amendments are also articles. Um, Most people don't realize that, but even after the first 10 amendments were spoken and written down, it actually does say also that these first 10 amendments, these first 10 articles are written as amendments. So they are articles, they just written as amendments because there were things that they wanted to include with the articles that they didn't originally, and pretty much like they say forgot. So these first 10 articles are these first 10 amendments are articles. So when they talk about the second quote unquote amendment, is really an article. And as everyone knows, articles are inalienable rights that cannot be construed or taken from you, but by secondly by God. Um, so there you go. Same thing with First Amendment.
Yeah.
Or first article, I should say. I always call them first articles, but people get upset when you say article. They be like, "Oh, that's not an article," whatever. But that's what it is.
All right. Yeah. So, very important to understand how, well, like you were stating, that those are actually inalienable, cannot be taken from you.
No,
Like,
even if you
like,
wanted to give them up, you can't. You can't even give them up if you want to.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
what most people don't really understand about the articles or God-given rights, as they say. Um, no man or government can take them from you. You cannot be seized or diseased of them simply because they didn't create them in the first place.
Which,
Everyone
according,
has a right to self-defense, which is why the article too. But we'll get into those later. You know,
well, to give a little background on just that statement here, we'll drop in with, as usual, our usual preamble to the discussion contained herein, which is the ruling on a decision in a matter called Hale versus Henkel, which occurred in 1906. And so Hale versus Henkel was decided by the United States Supreme Court in 1906. The opinion of the court states the individual may stand upon his constitutional rights as a citizen. He is entitled to carry on his private business in his own way. His power to contract is unlimited. He owes no duty to the state or to his neighbors to divulge his business or to open his doors to an investigation, so far as it may tend to incriminate him. He owes no duty to the state since he receives nothing therefrom beyond the protection of his life and property. His rights are such as existed by the law of the land, common law, long antecedent to the organization of the state, and can only be taken from him by due process of law and in accordance with the Constitution. He owes nothing to the public so long as he does not trespass upon their rights. So the public can gain nothing from you that you do not enter into the public realm. In your private capacity, your right to contract with the U.S. government is unlimited and only up to you and your discretion. So, do with that information what you will. We've definitely tried to give strong, long-ranging perspective on what all that means to you and pertaining to your ability to be in existence outside of the scope of the U.S. government. Because, as that said, your rights existed long antecedent, aka before the existence of a thing known as the state. So those are fundamentally you're entitled to them, actually.
Yeah, people were moving long before there was government. Um, uh, Men and women were doing things before there was any kind of government instilled.
Property was owned long before
Long
there
before, yeah, people
governmental.
e- people were transversing the country in automobiles long before there was government telling it what to do.
Yeah,
So all these things were being done long before the government. So when you enter into a contract with the government, you are now saying, well, I'll give you permission to regulate what I'm doing because originally you don't have it, so I'm going to let you have this. You don't have to, but if you choose to, I mean, that's fine.
yeah, that's totally up to you. And you should, like we were just alluding to, you should understand what it is that you are allowing the government to involve themselves in your matter. Whereas when they try to use your perceived compliance to go further than their powers allow, you should be able to distinguish that and head them off at the pass, so to say, if you elect to. So today's edition, we've made it to Article 5, and I was
No,
wondering if we
you
should
skip.
do. Huh?
Are we on the? I thought we were on the. No, we're on the fire. You're right. You're right. You're right.
Yeah, I read up.
Yeah.
Now, that to say, well, I mean, Article 5, I don't know. I'm thinking maybe we should combine 6 and 7, or because I was going to say we should combine 5 and 6, but actually, Article 7 is very short, so maybe we should combine 6 and 7.
Well, let's start with 5 and see what we do.
Got it. All right. So you want to jump right into it, or anything
Yeah.
you want?
Or you want me to talk about it, or you want?
I mean, I can read it, or
Okay,
what have you.
that's fine.
Yeah. So I mean, I'll try to pause, not read it too quickly in case you really want to impart something based on a segment that I go over. All right. So Article 5: the Congress, whenever 2/3 of both houses shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments to this Constitution, or on the application of the legislatures of 2/3 of the several states shall call a convention for proposing amendments, which, in either case, shall be valid to all intents and purposes as part of this Constitution, when ratified by the legislatures of 3/4 of the several states, or by conventions in 3/4 thereof, as the one or the other mode of ratification may be proposed by the Congress, provided that no amendment which may be made prior to the year 1808 shall in any manner affect the first and fourth clauses in the ninth section of the first article, and that no state without its consent shall be deprived of its equal suffrage in the Senate. Now, I'll say this: would you like me to go back and read Articles 1 and 4 of of the ninth of the first section? I'm sorry, of the ninth section of the first article.
Oh, you can. Go ahead.
All right, let's because yeah, I've already kind of gone back. So let's see here. That's Article 2. I think I went to. So this is Article 1 right here, isn't it? All right, here it is. So the ninth section of the first article. That's number 7, 8. Here we go. So article section 9. The first article is, or the first section of it. The migration or importation of such persons as any of the states now existing shall think proper to admit shall not be prohibited by the Congress prior to year 1808, but a tax or duty may be imposed on such importation not exceeding $10 for each person. So that's that thing that they had updated
For a slave.
Yeah, exactly. And then the fourth section is no capitation or other direct tax shall be laid unless in proportion to the census or enumeration herein before directed to be taken.
Protecting my money. That's what they were getting at, was protecting their money. Um,
Yeah, well, in
it's
proportion
7 articles. I was right. It's 7 articles.
Yeah, because
It's 7 articles, and then
you're right.
it's 10 amendments. But anyway, they were trying to protect their money. Remember the whole point of the whole point to the Constitution was to create a governmental system, and governmental system is defined as a municipality. A municipality is a business, and they have to put in things that have to do with their business in the contract or constitution. If you don't know, constitution is a contract. Um, you have to protect your business interests. Your business interests are slaves at that point in time, and your business interest is people. Um, they are property. They are tools to be used at will, how you see fit. But your property is, like we said, your property. So when you're doing business of transporting or gaining a product for business purposes, you can be taxed for that. It's just like they have taxes, like if you have a work truck or you have a property, a real estate property, um, where you sell your businesses out of. They can tax that, because that is a business, is a thing that they do control. Anything that works in commerce in the United States is what the business or United States of America has jurisdiction over, as stated in Article 3, Section 2. They had that whole Admiralty Maritime jurisdiction, which is the business of doing things. So,
in which they listed all the things that the United States is a party to, which is why they made sure to go over a very specific list that does not include the term people.
No, it doesn't include men and women. Um, they're not a party to men and women or people or what they do. They're only a party to
Living
persons or
souls
and citizens.
and yeah, entities that are paper or basically anything that is commercial in nature. The United States has authority over delegating how it should be operated. Another commercial term within the bounds of the United States. So they have authority over commercial entities, and of course, if you've been visiting this cast for any long stretch of time, you understand that you, as a living soul, are not a commercial entity, and you are able to separate yourself from these conditions and terms that they try to set in place because their governance literally stops at the point that they are not discussing a matter of business.
Yeah. Um, and that's is another reason that I always tell people that the law is not hard to understand. Um, at least common law, the law that goes for men and women, that is not hard to stand because men and women are pretty simple. You know, we don't have any kind of you don't hurt like your everyday is if you don't hurt me, I don't hurt you. I have no problem with you. You have no problem with me. We go our separate ways. When you get into a whole nother aspect, which is admiralty commercial, maritime jurisdiction or law, it goes into how it interacts with business. So if you are disrupting the business of a store, you can get trespassing charges because now you're hurting my business. You're not allowing customers to go about their daily motion of buying and selling goods that I'm doing without without making them feel uneasy or wanting to leave. Now you're hurting my business. That comes into the business where you actually don't have to physically hurt anybody or do anything, but the presence of you is hurting my business. Things that can hurt business. Um, uh, Transportation. When the trucks are coming through, if you are impeding traffic, you're slowing down business, the movement of business, because now you're not allowing goods to get to their destination on time, which cause me to lose money because I can't sell them when I want to. Those are all business aspects. So when they, you know, as it says, Uniform Commercial Code, it tells you in the title it's a commercial code. It's for business purposes. So anything you're talking about, you have to differentiate between which form of law you are using, since there are only two. There are literally only two. I'm gonna make sure I hold up these fingers. Only two forms of law in the United States. There's common law and there's admiralty maritime. So
And you
those are the
know,
only two. Everything else falls under one of the two. Now
and
it is
just
up.
to,
Hey, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that to circle the wagons yet again, what the end of Hale versus Hinkle say? As long as you don't infringe on the public right, then you can't you're able to always separate yourself from public matters. Or like you were talking about, if you impede business, now you're involving yourself in public matters, and the public can the business can reach back to you and be like, hey, you interfered with our our usual daily interactions in the economy, so we need compensation. Now that's at that point, you know you got to understand how that really breaks down, and if it's actually applicable. If it is, then they might have the ability to take you to court for some matter. But if your private interaction has no effect on public, you know, in activity, then there's really no reason for any business entity to ever call you into a court of law.
But all that stuff gets muddied and convoluted when you are dealing with something that the whole process is based on a monetary system, which is making money. So anytime somebody is trying to make money, as they say, get that bag, they will try to do anything to get that bag. So even though you might not be doing anything to hurt or disease anyone monetarily, or hurt their harm their business, uh, hey, it's about making money. So when they say money is the root of all evil, that's why they say that. That's what is meant by it. Because people, and same thing as government, will do anything to make a profit. Um, that is the capitalism by definition, is to capitalize on everything and everyone.
Uh, and you know what this takes me back to? It's kind of funny because I know we were just talking about. Well, it's very all right. This is a good time to segue into this. We were just discussing the idea that the vaccine that's
You really want? All
being.
right, good.
I gotta
Go
do
ahead.
it. I gotta do
Go,
it.
go ahead. Go
All
ahead.
right.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Now that's being disseminated is they're using they're literally using OSHA, talking about occupational safety, um, to claim that, oh well, now there's an emergency use basis for this vaccine to be proliferated amongst the people, because they're pointing back to other other diseases that have floated through, like when smallpox, and I'm not going to get into numbers too much, but was killing anywhere between 10 to 15% of the population, and it was like, wow, this need, we gotta figure something out,
Back when they
and
didn't have
I,
vaccines or actually healthy living conditions. Yeah,
yeah. So upon them having to figure it out, like, and funny enough, China actually introduced the technology of, oh, if you introduce like a very manageable amount of that to your body's ecosystem, your body will create antibodies, and oh, now you're inoculated, and your body actually is now immune to the condition, which is the definition of a vaccine. If a vaccine is not creating immunity, it's, well, not a vaccine. But beyond that, if you going to go
go ahead,
into,
go ahead, go ahead, go ahead, go
no,
ahead,
all right,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry,
You
yeah,
know, you're
so
speaking. Everything you're saying is factual. Everything we do here
so
is
yeah,
factual, so
with
it's only
that,
based on facts.
that's all I can speak on. That's all I study. I don't speculate.
Yeah.
So with that being said, if something is being introduced onto the society and they're mandating, oh, I'm sorry, I love that last previous point got me. Um,
You talking about OSHA
Basically,
and yeah.
yeah. Oh, so they're using, oh, you're interfering with the public, but that's kind of what they're reaching for in trying to mandate these things, but they don't actually have the scope to do so. I guess that's the basis of my what I was getting at there.
Now remember, well, yes, technically they don't, because everyone is a man or a woman or a people or the people. The people is both singular and plural, as we've discussed here very many times. The word people in law is both singular and plural, meaning it can be one man or it can be a group of men and women. The people are the ones who make law, not Congress. They make
Mm,
statutes and policies. Um, so when the people are being told to do something, it is up to them whether or not they decide to uh, take anything. That is why they keep on telling businesses that they have to mandate their employees to take something. They don't actually. They never. You've never seen a government come out and say, or a United States government come out and say, we want everyone to take this, because they cannot do that. They can't demand it, That's why they say they're asking. We've talked about this before. Even when law enforcement is talking to you on the side of the road, they are asking for your identification. They are asking for your registration. They cannot demand anything unless you have harmed someone in a physical sense, where you have and there is a witnesses to it. And because they all have that whole jurisdiction to claim rights over you, or claim that they can do anything. Um, so when they are making these mandates, they are mandating them for commercial purposes. All the mandates are commercial, in order because the only thing a mandate is commercial.
There we go. That's what I was getting into.
Yeah, the only thing a mandate is commercial. So when they say things, and I'm trying not to get into this, mind you, we all study profusely to the point where people get mad for not being into the conversations they want, because I'm too busy doing other things like studying, because it's all a study. But the novel coronavirus, or I'm going to say it, be factual. The novel coronavirus, or new cold, as it is defined, um, is an issue that I'm trying to stay away from. Simply,
Gotcha.
now we can stay. It's law. It is law. We are talking about law, and we are talking about the business of law, especially in this. So when they are making these regulations, they are simply that, regulations. They can't say law. Even when they say law, they are talking commercially. They don't tell you which form of law, because everything they do is predicated on you not being aware of the difference between the two, because there is a whole system built on the fact that you will not know the difference. So the fact that there are two hurts their business. So when you understand that there are two and not just one, since because they are only going to tell you and talk about one, because they can't talk about the other, because they don't deal in anything other than the first, in that one specific aspect. They can there is everything they say is based upon that. So
And let me be clear in saying this. The only reason I brought up that scenario is because, as I was mentioning Hale versus Hinkle, it says that the public has no ability to contend with you unless you're infringing on their ability to do what it is they do. And basically, these mandates and regulations here are the public sphere interfering with your private ability to live in the way you see fit. And they're trying to, basically they're pushing public policy into your private life. So you're going to say, oh, well, you need to be vaccinated in order to interact with public. Well, I already clarified why that's deceptive at best, false at its most obvious. So it's public policy trying to push its way into your private affairs, in your body.
let's clarify something too. When we say public, that we mean citizens. So you have to have the distinction between public versus private, because when you say public, we're talking about citizens. Now, when we say private, we're talking about men and women and the people. So if I want to interact with people, I don't care what the public says. And as long as the people want to interact with me also, I don't care what the public says, because the public is not the private, and they do not have any kind of I'm not beholden to them on any matter, or owe them anything, simply because I am alive. I don't owe you anything because I'm alive. The only thing that I am owed is life and death, and like you said, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Those are things that I have from birth. So unless I am unless I am from a standpoint of stopping you physically from doing something, because an airborne virus is not anyone, man or woman. That has nothing to do with them because it's airborne. So you talk to God if you have a problem with that. But uh, don't assume that because I am living, I have to do what you say, because that goes into the whole dictatorship thing or authoritarian aspect of life. You're completely changing the purpose of the United States and the United States of America, because as you stated, as we stated, as we've read, and as you heard, there are laws built into what the United States is made for and made from, to make sure that those things don't happen. So
Facts. Mm. All
sorry to be a
right.
little long-winded. Always get a little like get into my my patriotism, if you want to call it. When you start uh we start talking about law.
I mean, no, I mean that's why I bring out that whole, that case, that particular issue just happens to be particularly timely as we're doing this cast and having these discussions about what governmental policy extends to as far as aspects of your life. And since I mean that's largely what we discuss here, that
Yeah,
it
because
needs to be
that's the whole point.
very timely. Yeah.
Um, and remember, it says they must be ratified or by 2/3
Yeah. And then where it actually says, yeah, 2/3,
or by
and yeah, and it
convention.
actually has to be ratified by 3/4
By three
of the
fourths. Yes, it
seats
has
in
to
the
be
convention.
ratified by
Yeah.
3/4, and or by conventions and 3/4 thereof. So if it wasn't actually fully stocked Congress at the time, pretty much to make the decision, then it was not a legal one because it was not put into law.
Yeah.
Um,
So I mean, yeah, well, and even that's into policy, but even
well,
then,
it's
yeah,
laws, commercial law.
you even subverted the powers that your body politic even possesses, as we read through all of these articles and acknowledge what those are and what they aren't.
Yeah.
So there's
Um,
subverting procedure.
and that's why they went back to make sure that they told you about business aspects of what they can and can't do. When they say you, the first article, was it 9 and 10, ninth section?
No, it's a sections 1 and 4 of the ninth section. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, section 1 and 4, or clause. They say
there you
clause.
go.
They use
Clause one
clause.
and four.
Sections are clauses. Um, clause 1 and 4 of the ninth section
There you go.
of the yeah
Of the first article.
of the first article. Um, I This reason they make everything so specific. I always tell, or always me in particular, I always say, or most of the time I should say, every word was done purposefully. There's no word inside the Constitution for the United States of America that they did not mean to put in there. They said everything exactly the way they needed it to be said. And to think otherwise is doing a disservice to education and intelligence. Because no one goes through a whole entire battle and takes years to make something to say they misspoke after. So
And yeah, I mean, and even the idea of amendments, you know, that it's a living document in that the like we were talking about here, the Bill of Rights is inalienable, and you have to hold everything to that magnifying glass before you even are to continue to chisel out any further edification or clarification of what the document is trying to expressly convey. So that's why I always hedge against these quote unquote progressives who want to suspend or otherwise alter this document in a way that they'd be like, oh, if we allow this administration to get into this, we can thereby solve some sort of red tape issue. We can get ahead of dealing with back and forth. But I'm like, hey, that's how that's the what do they call it, the totalitarian tiptoe.
Yeah, totalitarian tiptoe. uh,
Yeah, you try to circumvent the will of law so that you might maneuver in manners that, I mean, yeah, you might be like the Obama administration. To me was we were living in it, we were like steeped in this in the Obama administration,
well,
where it's like, well,
oh, be
they're good
careful. Be
guys.
careful.
I
Be
know, I know,
careful.
I know.
There's a lot of people. There's a lot. Excuse me. There are a lot of citizens who will attack you if you start talking about their president.
Yeah, I know, man. My black card is at risk. I gotta be super careful here.
Um, for GP, just for like just to keep people aware. No, I'm not sick. That cough is because my mouth is dry. We talk a lot here. People, when anytime anyone coughs, everyone assumes that they have to be sick or anything. Like people didn't cough before. Um, it's just crazy to me going out into the world. My you know, eh, regulations for business and government and employees seeping out into the everyday world is always a crazy thing for me to watch. Like this is me. That's me. I go out and people watch, and when people say, oh, this is mandatory that you do this, I'm like, oh, well, I'm the guy that's going to question your mandates simply because it's only for business and commercial. But whatever. It's just always a fun thing for me to watch things like that, especially like even simple things as mannerisms that have been around for since human beings are now being questioned.
You
Like you
know,
can't
it's
do
funny
them
to me.
anymore.
Whenever somebody like, it's funny because they'll say it so proud, like they just know. They're like, "Hey, you can't do that." You're like, "Oh, what law says that?" Can you show it to me? And then you'll just watch them have like a hissy fit, and then
Yeah,
or I mean, they might even try to direct you to a statute. But like, yeah, if you've been around to catch any of this, you understand how those actually apply to you and how to navigate someone issuing you a writ based on some sort of statute, which is other than constitutions or jurisdictional, judicial decisions.
well, I'm hoping when we do these casts, I'm hoping you are getting a clarification and understand that there are very few laws for men and women in the United States. And even with the United States of America, there are still very few laws. Now, are there policies?
A ton.
A ton of policies. Are there statutes? They change every single day, and that's why they cannot be considered laws because laws do not change. It's like they say, law of attraction, law of gravity, law of motion. These things are not changeable just on a whim. It's
It's
not
funny.
deciding one day, okay, gravity is now up, not down.
Actually, I think gravity's still a theory, but
Yes,
because
Yeah,
I was just about to bring up evolution. And,
yeah,
so like these things, and it's so funny to me because people pound their chest. Man, you already know the people I discuss things with, and they swear they're hardcore academics. Like, and they speak with this, like,
fervor.
man, science doesn't even
Vigor.
claim to know yet. The jury's still out 100 years later because it's just like law. The laws of science are much like the laws of the courtroom. Very few things are understood to be certain. Everything else is still very much up for discussion and updating.
That's why it constitutes, like you said, is a living body. Um, and that, mind you, when there are law changes, they are put on a ballot and they ask the people. Remember, everyone tries to pretend like they forgot that anytime there is a new law, even with marijuana or yeah, or even let's use marijuana or abortion, they put it on the ballot for the people to decide. They ask you, it's proposition, as they say. So when law is made, it's the people who make the law. Now they don't put it in that form. They don't tell you that on the news. They don't say that. They don't say, we're going to let the people decide what the law is, since the people
Well, the
do
people who
always
have
decide
more
what the law
hand,
is. You know,
yeah,
they're not going to say that because now you have putting yourself onto a position of inferior instead of superior. If you always claim to be superior in everything you say, then Columbus, always use Christopher Columbus as an example. You just keep telling a lie long enough, people will start to believe it. So always be mindful that if it was a law, they would put it on a ballot for people to decide. They wouldn't use a Congress because there's no such thing as legislative law. Congress wouldn't be making it. They wouldn't be calling it. Now they can make regulations for business. They can make laws for commerce. But as far as men and women are concerned, they have dealings with oil and water. Keep
yeah.
them separated for a reason.
So, it's funny as we hash out the whole discussion. I would really advise people to do further investigation into whether the things they believe are like, and yeah, sure, I'll say it, fact, hardwired law versus theory. Like we just said, there are very few laws. And yeah, I made sure to fact check myself just now. Yes, it's the universal theory of gravity.
Yes, it's a
Don't blame
universal
your
theory.
education system for teaching you that as if it's some hard and fast law that all science hasn't even agreed that gravity in fact works exactly the way it's been enumerated to be taught, in school at this point. It
Well,
hasn't been done.
you were starting going down a rabbit hole because we can go into that forever about everything. But yeah, um, but just because we all have lives,
Yeah.
uh, let's get back to them. We got to get back to them. And we hope you enjoyed this cast. That you learned something new. You were educated to actually do some research so you can find out facts for yourself. And you take these words and what the Constitution said into advisement. Um, don't take my word for it. Don't take Plain Sight's word for it. Don't take Bach's word for it. Um, look it up. Look it up.
Yeah.
Google is
Look
your
up the
friend.
words used to describe the thing you're looking up. Look
Yes,
up the lookup. Cute.
look up the lookup. Know each word in every sentence you're saying. Um, but Google it. It's in plain sight.
Hidden
All
Black's
right.
Law.
In Black Law. Hope you enjoyed the cast.
All right. Be safe.
One love.
Peace.